Agent Zero is a powerful, autonomous, agentic open source framework, and if you pair it with Venice, you can use it completely privately. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to get started with Agent Zero using Venice for complete privacy. Don't worry, you don't have to be a technical person. This is very easy. We will walk through the basic installation, setup, and a general overview of how Agent Zero works and how you can program it to behave just like you want. We'll walk through some troubleshooting techniques to help it learn, and in the process, generate some fun images and videos like this one, all while teaching Agent Zero how to do what we want when we prompt a certain way. By the end of this video, you will have a firm grasp on what Agent Zero is and how you can get started using it. So buckle up and let's dive in. So here at the GitHub, I just want to show you it because this is where you can find the documentation in case you run into any problems. The installation instructions we are going to follow come right from the GitHub here. The first thing we need to do is download Docker Desktop from docker.com. It's free, you don't need to sign in or anything. Download Docker Desktop and install it. So Docker Desktop is going to look something like this. You'll have containers, images, volumes, builds, tabs on the left menu. And what we're going to look at here is the containers menu if you've never used Docker. Each container is literally a container on your computer. So everything happening inside these images, which if I open up, you'll see Agent Zero here happening in an image. This is being run in a completely walled off environment in my computer. So Agent Zero cannot touch any of my files. It's just not possible. Everything happens in a container. Unlike other agentic AI frameworks like Claude Code, they have command line access to your whole computer, which could lead to disaster if you're not careful. That's not possible with Agent Zero. So what we're going to do is click this Images tab, and we're going to search up here for Agent number 0 AI /agent word 0. And we're going to see here the latest. Note that mine says run because I've already installed the image here. Your screen is probably going to look something like this where you have to click pull, and it might take a little while to download the image. Once it's pulled, then we want to click run. I'll click that run button. Make sure you open the optional settings here and give it a name. I'm going to call it Agent Zero Venice. And here in host port 80 TCP, I'm just going to put 0 there. That's going to make things simpler later. Click run. And now we're going to see Docker is spinning up our container from the Agent Zero image. So now it's ready to go. I'll go back here to containers and we'll see A0 Venice. That's the name. And here where it says port, we're seeing 5500280. I'm going to click that. And that is going to open up Agent Zero in my browser. This is the Agent Zero interface, everybody, right here. Now we need to click Settings. And here in the Settings dashboard, we want to click over to the second tab, External Services. And you're going to see Agent Zero Venice AI. That is a different API key that you would use. What we're going to use is the actual Venice AI provider down here. So head on over to your API page on the Venice interface and find the Generate New API Key button. We'll give it a name, A0 Venice, for example, and click Create. Copy that API key and paste it into your Venice AI provider. Then click Save. But we're not done yet. Now we need to click Settings, go to the first tab, Agent Settings, and here we want to change the chat model provider from whatever the default is, Open Router, to Venice AI. Let's leave the chat model name blank for now. We'll come back to that later. Scroll down to Utility Model. Same thing, change your provider to Venice AI and leave the model name blank. And once more with the web browser model, keep the model name blank. Down here, we'll see the embedding model, but we can leave this as the default. We don't need to worry about that. This will work fine with the sentence transformers, all mini LM from Hugging Face. So we've got all the providers set. Now we need to set our models. So I'm going to scroll back up to the chat model here, and we're going to head over to the Venice API docs, docs.venice.ai. And here we're going to click the Models tab, and this is a list of all the models Venice has to offer through its API. What we need are text models, and we're going to find the model we're going to use. So GLM 4.7, very high quality and private open source model we can use. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Feel free to use whatever you want here. If you want to play around with the more proprietary models such as Gemini 3 or Claude Opus, you're probably going to get better results, but you will sacrifice your privacy for that. You will be anonymized, but you won't have privacy. These models are also more expensive. So a nice open source model like GLM 4.7 gives you a good balance of cost and intelligence. It is also a pretty good agentic model. So I'll go ahead and copy that. Come back here to Agent Zero, and I'm going to paste that model name. So now Agent Zero knows to go through the Venice AI provider, and this is the model we're calling for chats. So the main intelligence, this is going to be the model. Now, there's one tab here, Vision. Can this model see things? The answer can be found here in these red tags. GLM 4.7 can do function calling and reasoning, but it takes a model like Google Gemma 3 to have vision, or Grok 4.1 Fast for vision, Gemini 3, etc. And Venice Medium also has vision. So what I'm going to do is toggle off vision. And that's okay. We don't need to have vision all the time. If you find your workflows suffering, you can always change the model you're using. We also want to check this chat model context length. This is default set to 100,000 tokens. That means a chat conversation with this model on this provider can go up to this many tokens. Every message back and forth, tokens are received and sent with the AI. So here, GLM 4.7 is 203,000 token context limit. So here, I'll change this to 203, or you could say 200. Just don't say more than 203,000. Next up, I'll scroll down to utility model. This needs to be a smaller and cheaper and faster model. This is for what are called utility tasks, just like preparing prompts, organizing things, summarizing things. It doesn't need to be a genius, so to speak. It just needs to have basic intelligence to do these quick utility jobs. So I'll find something like Venice Small for this. I think that does a great job, and it's a really good price. So I'll paste Qwen3 4B in here. Everything else is good there. We don't need to worry about context limit. Now we're at the web browser model. So we want to make sure the model has browser use. So a good open source model for this is going to be Google Gemma 3 27B Instruct. So if you're unsure if a model offers browser use, just Google it. Does this model have the browser use tool, for example? So I'll paste that here. Google Gemma 3 27B does have vision. So we can make sure that's toggled on. We're done here now, so we'll click Save. Now we can test it out. Testing, who are you? Just send a basic message to Agent Zero, and you'll see very quickly if your setup worked or not. And here we go. We have Agent Zero up and running. Hello, I'm Agent Zero, your autonomous AI assistant. Now, what does Agent Zero offer us? Well, it can execute commands and code in a Kali Linux environment. That's the container I mentioned earlier. This is running in a box, and it has its own operating system, Kali Linux. Agent Zero can use specialized tools for various tasks. It can delegate to subordinate agents with specialized expertise, and we're going to jump into that in just a moment. It can manage memories to remember important information, and it can schedule tasks for automated execution. And it can help us with software development, system administration, research and analysis, browser automation, task automation, and much, much more. So this interface is obviously very familiar. It looks a bit like ChatGPT or Claude. It's not an IDE, but in the background, Agent Zero is running a complex memory system to remember what is talked about so that memory can persist in new conversations. Agent Zero is able to remember things much better than your average AI window. So let's have some fun, shall we? So the next thing we're going to do is give Agent Zero access to our API key. So then we can access the Venice API for image and video stuff. So I'll go back to the settings. I'll click this External Services tab, and we're going to scroll down here to Secrets Management, and we're going to come down here to Secrets Store, because what we're about to paste in is indeed a secret. Venice _API_key equals. Come back to your Venice API dashboard, and either generate a new API key or copy the one you used before and paste that into your secret store. Click save, and now I'm going to start a new conversation and say, collect the docs for Venice API so we can generate images. And now you're going to see a little bit of Agent Zero's browser use functionality. We can expand Agent Zero's actions, reasoning, and thinking here. And we can see it's calling the search engine tool. And it found the docs.Venice AI API reference endpoint. Easy. So we can obviously minimize all of this stuff, but it is kind of fun to watch it sometimes to see exactly what it's doing. And now it's saving that documentation to memory. I've successfully collected the documentation for Venice API image generation. Now I need to save this information to memory for future reference. Okay, there we go. It now knows what to do, so let's have some fun. Let's go back to the models page on the Venice docs and let's click image and let's find an image generation model we want to use. Now, I am pretty partial Banana Pro because it's amazing, but it is kind of expensive. If we use some of these open source models, it's much cheaper. HiDream is open source and it's very good and it's only 1 cent per image generation. Why don't we play with HiDream? So I'll copy that and I'm going to say, using the paste HiDream model, let's generate a photo of a cat playing in the river with a hippo. Image successfully generated, and it saves it here inside its own files. So I can click that and it will download to my computer. And if I open that up, there we go. We have the hippo and the cat. And that looks a lot like my cat, which is interesting. But say I want to see it. I don't want to download it. Generate it again as PNG. Now the reason it's going to be able to do this is because it knows in the Venice API, it can choose between JPEG, PNG, and WebP. And in my experience, WebP does not display on the Agent Zero window, but PNG does. So let's see what happens now. Let's see, are we going to see it? Are we going to see it? All right, so it didn't show it. Let's try one more time with JPEG. I can press stop here, pause agent. Now do it again with JPEG and display the image in our chat. So it's still not working. I'll say move the images into a folder that can actually be accessed by this chat interface because current permissions do not allow for these images to be displayed here. Now, you might be wondering why I'm keeping this troubleshooting conversation in the video. Breaking the fourth wall here. The reason being is because Agent Zero, look right now, it's searching memories. After every message you send, it goes into its memory here. And so it knows already that we generated these images with Venice using the API that we got from these websites. We already have 3 pages of memories here. All the parameters for running the Venice API is here in the memory already, so it knows. And once we troubleshoot this, like, hey, we want the image to show up, then it will keep that in its memory so it doesn't happen again. This is one of the very unique and powerful selling points of Agent Zero, which makes it so cool. So Agent Zero has access to all of its files and all of its programming. So it knew, oh, hey, we couldn't display the images from that file. Oh, that makes sense. Here it is. So now we see all the images here. So now I'm going to start a new chat, and I'm not going to give it any context. I'm going to say, generate an image with Nano Banana Pro, 16:9 aspect ratio, and I'll paste a prompt. Oh, see how I can't see it there? I'll click this little expand prompt button. There we go, bigger prompt space. And watch how I can send this prompt without saying anything else. Use the Venice API, blah, blah, blah. And thanks to Agent Zero's persistent memory, it will know exactly how to generate the images and even how to display them for me so I can see them. thanks to the troubleshooting we just did in the last conversation. Same thing here. It saved the image, I think, to the wrong folder, so it couldn't display it. I was expecting it to have the memory. Sometimes it doesn't work. So we'll say, place the image in a folder where it can be displayed here in the interface, and adjust your behavior so this broken image display from a generated image doesn't happen again. Another neat part of Agent Zero, you can tell it to adjust its behavior, and it will modify its own files to do so. Now, while it does that, I'll show you. Here, you can click Files, and you'll end up in the file browser for the whole Agent Zero. And you'll say, hey, there's our Rhino Cat images, right? So I will go up here. I'll go to the Agent Zero folder, A0. And then here we'll see agents. Now this is where all the subordinate agents live, the sub-agents, which have their own behavior and context and system prompts that it follows. So here in Agent Zero, for example, we have a context file and then their main system prompts. Same thing here with the developer agent and a hacker and a researcher, and we can make our own. So meanwhile, we got our Rhino Cat. That's fun, right? Nano Banana Pro for the win, huh? It moved it to the file and it adjusted its behavior. Now, speaking of sub-agents, if I go to settings, you'll see we can choose a default agent profile. Let's make a new agent. So I'll say, using this style of image generation, create a new sub-agent in the same format as the agents in the A0 agents directory called Venice Image Prompter. And now what it's going to do, it will create a new sub-agent folder in here called Venice Image Prompter. So now we see it's exploring the structure of the agents in here and how these agents are formatted, their files, their context, their system prompt. And we can see here, as it's creating these files for the agent, it's also creating a Python script for the tool. So instead of having to write a script every time to generate the image, it's creating a basic template, so it just has to fill in the prompt we need. This will save on context and API costs. So it's done. It's telling me what it did. We can click the files. We can see now we have a Venice Image Prompter agent, and it's using context file, prompt files that it made itself to be good for our agent. And then it's got a tools directory for generating the image. You'll also see in the settings, I can go here to the default agent, and we have Venice Image Prompter there now. So finally, I'll say, make sure whenever we generate an image, this sub-agent is called. You know what? I'm going to say that even better. Pause agent. Make sure whenever we generate an image, this sub-agent is called. The prompt given by me, the user, will not be on brand and detailed, but it will be this agent's job to follow the general style used earlier in this conversation. This would be a good time to drag a reference file if you have one, or a reference image, and you would need to change your chat model to something like Claude Opus so you can have vision, or any of these models that might have vision. So Gemini 3 Pro probably would be a good one with decent costs, or Gemini 3 Flash even. So now it's created a workflow. I say generate an image of a fox and forest. Agent 0 then delegates to the Agent 1, the sub-agent, the Venice Image Prompter. It will enhance the prompt and then generate via the Venice API. So let's start a brand new chat. Generate an image of a cat riding a rhino being chased by an owl. Delegating image generation to Venice Image Prompter Specialist. So Agent Zero's behavior now knows to call this agent no matter what. And look, I didn't give it any other context. Just generate an image of a cat riding a rhino being chased by an owl. Okay, so it made the image. Here it is. It's in a dramatic old master painting style. And it used a lot of the same artistic descriptions I used in the original prompt, which is certain lighting, color palettes, etc. So now we're going to take things one step further to wrap this video up, and that is to create video. I'm going to start a new chat, and I'm going to prompt Agent Zero to get the documentation for Venice API's video generation from docs.venice.ai and instruct our sub-agent, the Venice image prompter, how to use it with Veo 3.1 fast, either image to video or text to video models. Same process as before. The result we want to achieve is knowledge, context for how to generate videos using the Venice API. One pro tip right now, video generation is a little more complicated because it has a few different endpoints. So it might be easier for you to go over to the Venice documentation website and copy the URLs to these 3 pages, these endpoints, queue video generation, retrieve video, and complete video, and feed those directly into Agent Zero, because depending on the model you're using, it might not figure it out right away. That is to say, with a simple prompt like this, your mileage may vary. So I kind of see it going in circles here. So I'm just going to send that off and interrupt what it was doing. Once again, I'm leaving this in the video so you know that this kind of thing happens. Agent Zero is alpha software. It's not even in beta yet. It's not official, meaning things happen. Okay, so it's done. It's going to save all generated videos to this temporary folder. So let's test this out. I'm going to come back to this conversation here, and I'm going to say, now use this latest image to generate a video. Bring it to life with the rhino stomping forward and the owl chasing the duo ominously until the cat swats the owl out of the air. Notice how we went to a different conversation. We didn't have to restart anything. And let's see what it's thinking. Right here we see, according to my behavioral rules, I must always delegate video generation requests to the Venice video prompter subway agent. From our last conversation, we know that it knows how to generate videos from an image. So that is what it is doing right now with the subordinate agent, the Venice prompter agent. Now this is taking some time. It's hit a rate limit. It sent some incorrect parameters, but that is completely natural as it's learning. The cool part about Agent Zero is that as it learns, it will add its lessons to the memory as solutions, so it likely won't happen again. It might, and if it does, you can simply prompt it to say, hey, fix your rules, fix the sub-agent so this doesn't happen again. Workflow complete. Looking like we're still having problems displaying the video, but I can click it here. All right. Boom. So that's using Veo 3.1. Of course, if you're trying to generate privately or perhaps uncensored, check the video models page at the Venice documentation and you'll see which models are private and which are simply anonymized. So there we have it. I know we focused here on generating media, but you can use Agent Zero for almost anything, including longer workflows, skills, if you will, and we will explore something like that more in a future video. This is a very basic way to get started with Agent Zero with the Venice API. And once you really get your configuration and prompting down right, you can full on storyboard and create almost full videos right here in the Agent Zero interface. So you can even see it shot by shot here. This is a really powerful opportunity because it allows you to use everything Venice offers you in one place. So let us know in the comments what you're working on with Venice, and are you using Agent Zero? The possibilities are endless. The Venice API offers you access to the highest quality models all over the internet, text, image, and video, and you can implement them into such open source frameworks like Agent Zero. Pretty amazing. So happy building out there. Make sure to subscribe for more tutorials on using the Venice API and beyond.